Welcome everybody to another video of Vinyl Addict. This is Chili, and today I have a battle between Black Sabbath 13 and Heaven and Hell's The Devil You Know. Okay, so before I get into this, please don't forget to hit the like button, comment on this video, share this video, and if you still haven't, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for future updates. Now that it's out of the way, let's get started on this. So this album, I'm going to start off with the Ozzy Black Sabbath album. This is the last album, of course, with Ozzy with Sabbath, and The Devil You Know would be the last album with Dio with Sabbath members, but they call themselves Heaven and Hell. It's Black Sabbath, the Dio era, the Mark II lineup. First of all, this album is produced by Rick Rubin, and what he was trying to do with this band is pretty much he's being a fanboy, somewhat like if you've seen the Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens, where the director pretty much just made the first Star Wars movie, and he did all the things that would make a Star Wars fan happy and giddy and go, oh, okay, and all these little callbacks and whatnot. And he pretty much does that with this band, and this band does not want to do that. There were some infighting between the members, the three members of Sabbath, which are Geezer, Ozzy, and Tony. Bill Ward is not present in this last effort. They have Brad Wilk from Rage Against the Machine / Audio Slave, which I feel did not do a good job on this at all. And first of all, if you're going to do a Black Sabbath album and try to have them do Black Sabbath the way we remember them from the first three albums, you do need Bill Ward. The drumming is pretty weak on here. I think he finally started, at least he wasn't allowing himself just to be himself and just go with the feel of this music. Now, I mentioned that Chad Smith did a couple of songs, I believe, with an Ozzy's newest album, the Potion Number 9 album, and with Tony Iommi, and those songs were great. He just pretty much stepped in. He's a great session head. He's done different work with different kinds of groups, and he seems to have done his homework with working with Ozzy and Tony. And Tony and that producer was just pretty much allowing them to be them, while over here they don't want to do this kind of music. And there's this sleeve in here where it shows like there's this kind of generic version of Sabbath. Like it'll say, oh, do the intro riff, do the solo, then do the verse, the main riff, then the what do you call it, the fast shuffle. And they kind of go through this little sort of, it's sort of formatted just to sound like Sabbath, like those old first three albums. And if you were Sabbath, yes, you would be pretty pissed off, because they were pissed off. There was a situation where Rick Rubin got all this vintage equipment and wanted them to use it, and Tony and Geezer were like, what the fuck is all this, all this vintage equipment and whatnot, because him thinking as a fan is wanting them to do this Sabbath, the first three albums. And you can't really try to force somebody to re-feel an expression that they've done long ago, because the expression was expressed already through those albums. You just have to allow them to be who they are. And with that producer on the new Ozzy album, I stated on that video that he was doing that with Ozzy and Tony. Tony Iommi. And Tony Iommi, it sounded like Sabbath, of course, but it was Sabbath in a new way, presented in a new way. While he is trying to do Sabbath, Rick Rubin, and trying to make these early albums sound like early albums, and it's coming off generic. The drums, it's sort of just with that. If you take something like Fairies Wear Boots and you hear that swing that the Bill Ward has, it's not here on this album. You can't have, even if you were trying to mimic it, it's just, it's just not going to come off. It's going to come off kind of disingenuous. It was just, and there was one song here, Zeitgeist, which is trying to sound like Planet Caravan. I mean, I think that was probably the only thing I felt that was kind of cool. But even though it seems like it was hitting all those, boxes of like, okay, well, let's do the Planet Caravan song. Let's do Zeitgeist. And I don't know, it just wasn't, I wasn't feeling it in that sense. For a nostalgic reason, you could probably sound like at first like, okay, but didn't offer anything new. It didn't offer anything like, this is Sabbath now with these guys. And I felt if the this drummer that came in, that Brad Wilk, if in his mind, if he's thinking that, well, Rick wants this album to be this kind of way, this Sabbath way, and perhaps I should do my homework, or, it's just like, how am I going to do this, in a sense? And it didn't come off right, and then the end, the first song was okay. When you first heard the nostalgia coming back in, okay, there's when it picks up and there's a change and the band cuts off and then there's a Tony riff and it speeds up, picks up, and then, they all go into that. And then, of course, all the songs are pretty much similar. Like I said, it's just following this format. And then you have titles like Live Forever, when it's just like, is this supposed to be like After Forever? It's supposed to be some sort of, this is the Sabbath you've been waiting for, and it's going to be this, what they were. And I think it was just more for Rick Rubin's sense to make his kind of dream album, or just like, I love the old Sabbath albums, I want them to do that for me now, and an updated version of it. And it just doesn't, it's forgettable. For me, it was. I mean, like the last song on this album, Dear Father. Now, grant you, that's when at least Brad was actually playing up to kind of just at least be above mediocrity with this band, and kind of doing things at least that stand out and bring something to the table of that track. And then they kind of throw in, the beginning of the first album with the bell tolling and everything from the beginning of the first track on Black Sabbath. They're kind of just bringing that back in there to say, this is closure. This is the last album you're going to hear. But see, these guys, even Ozzy wasn't even felt like he was done as far as doing some sort of Sabbath reunion. He still wants to do something with Bill Ward. The last component was not there. And it's just, it seems like it's very forced. And it was a big letdown for me, 13. And they had some extra songs on the CDs and whatnot, but there's 8 songs, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's 8 songs, so it's like a old Sabbath album, like Master of Reality or something, or Paranoid. Okay. So, yeah, it's just, it's not really, Sabbath was always kind of forward thinking, even till the very end. And the thing is, they don't even play, when the last time I saw them on the End tour, They played none of these songs here in Vegas. They played none of these songs. They just played. They didn't. Okay, so when Ozzy said he didn't even care about Never Say Die and everything, and they didn't play anything from Never Say Die or this album. So they're not even including this as part of their legacy, on their last tour, the last leg. It was just like, it was all the old stuff from Technical Ecstasy up to the beginning. First album, the Technical Ecstasy, they did Dirty Women. They put songs from, I think every album. I don't know if they did something from Sabotage, because I know he doesn't like that album as well, but as far as like the whole group being part of something and standing together and saying, okay, let's play songs that we all enjoy. Nothing was represented on here. Do you think that they would play something, especially their new album, new material, but they just don't even want to include this as part of their legacy? They didn't even play any of this stuff on the last leg. So that's kind of tells you, even they don't even care about this album as much. Now, this album, from beginning to end, I thought was strong. I thought it from Adam and Evil to Breaking into Heaven. Breaking into Heaven was a great ending track. It seemed to just put their legacy. I mean, this is better. I felt like this is better than Dehumanizer. And there's just, four guys that are just so in tuned. And that's one thing, because even Vinny is a part of this band. It seemed like with 13, it's been those three guys, and like, well, who's this other guy? And there's just there was no chemistry, I felt, with Brad, and because these guys know each other, and especially Vinny working with Dio all that time, and then you see some things that come around here, like they've that's come full circle, that there's closure on certain things. Like, it's produced by Ronnie, Tony, and Geezer. Because the whole situation why they broke up was because of Live Evil. And it was Tony and Geezer producing that album, and that the whole drama behind, Ronnie and Vinny coming in and turning up the vocals and the drums and turning down the guitars and the bass, and then, Tony coming in while those two are not in the studio and turning up the guitars and bass and turning down the vocals and the drums. And now they're working as a band, as a unit, and the music is strong, and the riffs are just awesome. Just like there's Follow the Tears. I mean, that beginning riff, and all the tension behind it and all the drama behind it. It was like, it's something new. Tony wants to do something new. Over here, he's forced to do something that he's done already and try to come up with something to make it feel like it's inspiring to do something he's done before. It's just like he just took these old Sabbath songs and say, well, I did these chords, and I'm like, I'll just turn these chords, put this chord instead of this chord first, and it'll still sound like Sabbath, and that's what Rick wants. It seemed like Rick got the album he wanted, whereas this, Tony and Geezer, all four of them are doing what they want to do, and it shows as like Bible Black is awesome. And even if they are kind of sort of sounding nostalgic, like say the intro to Bible Black, you could say, well, it's like an intro, like the feeling or the mood is sort of Children of the Sea acoustic stuff, and then it gets heavy with a voodoo type of groove on it, but still it's still up to date, it's still new, and it's them being them at this time, 2008, 2009. They're not looking back at their catalog and saying, okay, let's do another Mob Rules type of song, or let's, you know, like with this one, oh, let's do a Planet Caravan type song. That's this Zeitgeist song, you know. This is the one that was like, I felt like the Sabbath's last best album, disguised as it's a Heaven and Hell album, disguised as a Black Sabbath album with Dio, from beginning to end. And just the way the thing is packaged, it seems like they all really kind of cared, and they have all their names down here. You know, even Apathy. You know, and in that album, it's Sabbath is listed as you know, those three, and then they got the session head. You know. And so this feels more like a unit, and then, you know, there's a cool little poster in here, because, you know, this is the band. This is you know, this is Heaven and Hell. This is Sabbath, which is cool. Oops, upside down. You know, so yes, I feel like this is the better band, the better all the songs on here. Adam and Evil, Fear, Bible, Black is Great, Double the Pain, Rock and Roll Angel, the Turn of the Screw, Eating the Cannibals, Follow the Tears, Neverwhere, and Breaking into Heaven. This is just great. This is all this. The reason why this is so forgettable for me, because the songs are all trying to sound the same and using that same formula, like I said, over and over again. But that's what this is. And the cover is just nothing special. You know, it's nothing great. Yeah, it's not their finest hour. So that is my video on this Heaven and Hell, the Devil You Know, or Black Sabbath's 13. This is the one I pick as the better album. Their better Black Sabbath's last best album. Hopefully something else will come up, because those guys are still around. You know, Ozzy, Tony, and Geezer, and Bill. Hopefully they will come back somehow, some way, and do it properly. A nice send-off like what they had with Dio. So leave a like and comment on this. What are your thoughts? Were there people, I want to know if there's more people behind the Ozzy 13 Black Sabbath than this Heaven and Hell, the Devil You Know. You know, this is just my opinion. It's not saying that, you know, the Dio era of Sabbath is superior. This is just based on an album to album. That's it. It was just between these two albums, because they were the last albums with the singers, with, you know, the lineups of Sabbath, or somewhat like with Sabbath, because of course Bill wasn't on the 13 record. So leave a comment, please, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.